Hello, and welcome back to the Sustainable Brown Girl podcast. This show exists to connect Black, Brown, and Indigenous women who are interested in sustainability. Our goal is to inspire, encourage, and educate each other, from gardening to thrifting to minimalism to veganism and everywhere in between. We are all on a journey to taking care of our bodies and our planet. I'm your host, Ariel Green. This episode is sponsored by Greenhouse Mercantile and Luisa Jewelry. More about our sponsors later. We've come to the end of yet another year. 2021 has flown by, in my opinion. I don't know if it's been the same for you, but it has really gone by so quickly. So I figured now would be a good time to kind of just do a recap of 2021 as far as my sustainable goals have gone and as far as my goals for this podcast, Sustainable Brown Girl. At the beginning of 2021, I did a podcast episode talking about ways in which we can be more sustainable this year. And I also shared a few of my goals that I had for 2021 to be more sustainable. So just to recap, some of my goals were to eat out less and to be more involved in the community and to also listen to more podcasts and continue educating myself. First, let's start with eating out less. I will say that I did do better this year than I did last year as far as eating out. You'll have to go back and listen to that episode from January to hear how badly I did in 2020. I mean, 2020 was a rough year for all of us, but and I'm sure I'm not alone in how much I was eating out. Yeah, guys, it was bad. So I definitely did improve this year as far as ordering DoorDash because, eating out uses so much single-use materials. We're looking at the plastic bags that it usually comes in. They often give you utensils, even though they're delivering to your home. And then you'll get different condiments and stuff that usually I don't use because, I have ketchup at home and, mainly I tend to have the condiments that I would need. So eating out just really produces so much waste, especially when it comes to delivery, because not only are we talking about the single-use containers and such that you get with your food, but also it's causes a lot of emissions and stuff to have someone bring your food to you, So that's, one thing to consider when eating out. So like I said, I did do better this year than I did last year, but I'm still not quite where I'd like to be. I definitely like to cook more at home, and you guys may know that I have a couple of raised beds at a community garden. This year in the garden, I didn't grow as much as I did last year, but I did try to grow some eggplants, and that went really well. That was my first time growing eggplant, but I also did squash and zucchini. Those didn't grow as well, and I think part of the issue was that, there was a hurricane here in March or April, it was March of 2021, and it hit the community garden pretty bad, and it affected our bees that we had in the garden, to help pollinate our, plants and stuff. So we lost pretty much all of our bees, and we could really tell a difference in the garden. And so, that was disappointing, and it led to lesser yields for almost everything that we grew. So I'm hoping this year we will be able to get some more bees into the garden, and that'll help our, produce grow better this year or next year in 2022. In addition to eating out less and eating more from the garden, I would also like to eat less meat. I was vegan for about almost a year, several years ago. But then, life happened. I kind of let society and my family and friends and such kind of influence me to not be vegan or vegetarian anymore. And then, I just kind of stopped. So since then, I've dabbled with going back. I would, take maybe a week or so off from eating meat or dairy, but it just hasn't been anything long term. So this year is being more plant based is something that I want to do more of. One of my other goals for 2021 was to be more involved locally in my community, like with volunteering and, participating in more, like local activities, not just environmental, but also just, being more active in the community in general. I've made some progress. I would say the biggest thing that I did in 2021 was getting my radio show started. So I got the podcast on a local radio station in my hometown. And, that's been a really big accomplishment. So, it's not really something that I set out to do in 2021, but it definitely has been a big like boost of feeling like I'm on the right track with the podcast. And it's also helped me to be more consistent with putting out episodes and just being more involved with the podcast and the environmental community. So I would say that was my biggest accomplishment as far as being more involved in the community goes. But as far as like what I had set out to do at the beginning of the year, where I wanted to be more involved with some local groups, that hasn't really taken off. I haven't really pursued that as much as I could have. But I've got some seeds in place that I am going to continue nurturing through 2022. And I think that I will definitely be able to meet my goals next year with being more involved with some, local community groups. Specifically, I wanted to get involved with this local organization called Keep Noonan Beautiful, which is just a environmental organization that's an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. And they just do activities such as litter prevention, beautifying different green spaces throughout the community, and they also do like waste reduction. So in the spring of 2021, Keep Noonan Beautiful did a electronics recycling event where you would like bring all of your electronic things that you need to recycle and they would recycle them for you. And so, like, people were bringing old TVs and monitors and computers and like iPods, phones, whatever random things you need to be recycled. So I took some of my husband's old computer parts, some old like charging cables for things that I don't have the products for anymore. And it was really amazing. I think they recycled so many pounds. I can't remember exactly how many pounds of electronics they recycled, but it was massive. Electronics are so difficult to recycle. So I was really impressed by that initiative. And so I want to get more involved with them. So I'm definitely going to be reaching out to them more. I have kind of opened up a conversation with the person who's in charge of the program. So, yeah, definitely going to be doing more of that. And I'm super excited. And then, of course, I'm also involved in the local community garden, which is, again, another, community program that's really great for my town, since they donate food to like Salvation Army and Meals on Wheels. So, that's really great to be involved with. So, I sometimes, because I'm so used to volunteering with them, I don't really give myself credit for the work that I do with them. So, that's also something that I have been involved with through 2021. So, just looking forward to continuing that partnership with the community garden and then also opening up something new with other organizations that are local. And the last goal that I set for myself in 2021 is to continue educating myself on eco news, environmental news, current events, and just learning more about climate change and ways that we can mitigate it and things that other people are doing to, help mitigate climate change and just, learning more about the different options that we have, watching documentaries, listening to podcasts. And honestly, you guys, I haven't been doing as much of that as I've wanted to. Having this podcast definitely does help me to, stay on top of some of the environmental news, but not as much as I would like to. So I would say that this area is probably one of the places that I haven't made as much progress as I would have liked to, as I set for myself at the beginning of the year. So going into 2022, I'm definitely have at the top of my list to continue educating myself. So that's my recap for how I've felt like I've done with my sustainable goals in 2021. I definitely have made some progress towards the things that I wanted to do. I, have some accomplishments that I'm definitely very proud of. But there's always room for improvement. So hopefully in 2022, I can continue working towards those goals. So now let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors before we get into the next part of our show, where I'm going to be giving you some tips and ideas on any sustainable goals that you may like to achieve yourself in 2022. Today's episode is sponsored by Greenhouse Mercantile and Ana Luisa Jewelry. There is the cutest Black woman-owned shop in my local downtown area called Greenhouse Mercantile. Fortunately, she also has an online shop at greenhousemercantile.com. Not only does the store feature products from local artists, Black-owned businesses, and fair trade products, but Kenya also sells zero-waste products like produce bags and wool dryer balls. I never thought I'd be able to find these things locally. Plus, Kenya is multi-talented and can offer help with curating your capsule wardrobe or making your home a sanctuary with her eye for simplistic interior design. To shop or inquire about virtual availability, visit greenhousemercantile.com. When it comes to jewelry, for me, simple is best. That's why I'm a big fan of Ana Luisa Jewelry. Their pieces start at just $39, and if you use my link in the description of this podcast, you'll receive 60% off your second item. That's shop.analuisa.com/ARIEL. Not only are their pieces produced ethically and sustainably, Ana Luisa is also 100% carbon and water neutral. From the perfect gold hoops to personalized jewelry and gemstones to pearls, Ana Luisa has pieces that will fit any style. Don't miss their biggest sale of the year by using my link in the description to get 60% off your second item at shop.analuisa.com/Ariel. Now, if you are looking for some ideas on how to be more sustainable in the new year, I've got some suggestions for you. Some of them are based on things that I want to do better for myself. Others are things that I feel like I've kind of achieved. I mean, There's always room for improvement, of course, but I feel like I'm at a good place to where I can, offer tips to other people on how to also achieve those things. So, first, let's start with being more involved in your community. Like I said, I want to get involved with my local affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. So, if you're also interested in volunteering, like doing some environmental work, doing some tree plantings or beach cleanups or stream cleanups, depending on where you live, definitely check your local area. There, in most bigger cities, I mean, I live in the suburbs of Atlanta. It's not really a big city, but it does have a nice, affiliate of Keep America Beautiful where, we can do these environmental cleanups and stuff like that. If there's nothing in your immediate local area, there will definitely be something in the larger metropolis close to where you live if you live near one. So I live outside of Atlanta. And earlier this year, I did a tree planting event with Trees Atlanta. So we just went out and planted, I don't know how many trees we planted, but it was several trees along a major roadway, just to do a beautification and to, it's always nice to plant trees and provide cleaner air to these metropolises. So definitely check out your bigger cities or your local area for any volunteer opportunities. Another way to get involved locally, 2022 is going to be an election year, for your Senate and your local representatives. Climate change is real. And I'm assuming that if you are listening to this podcast, you're probably a Democrat because Democrats tend to be more environmentally conscious. So I would say, hopefully, there are some people who are running in your area who are Democrat and, are looking to address environmental issues and maybe racial issues. So if you, want to get involved politically, now would be a good time. And you can also even look into running for office. A lot of people have had great success recently. Well, maybe not great success, but it's there have been more people who aren't tried and true and like bred politicians who have been able to make it into the Senate and into the Congress. And people who are real people who care about real issues. So maybe that's something that could be your calling, that you can look into running for office, or even just supporting someone whose agenda that you truly believe in. And getting involved on the local level is a great place to start. Maybe you can run for city council or something like that because it's usually low pressure. And if you have been involved in your community, within the past few years or so, and you've been living there for a long time, and maybe you've made some connections, it might be a good place to really make your voice heard and make some changes in your local area. Another goal that I've mentioned that I want to do more of in 2022 that's really important to me is educating myself more on environmental issues. So I've got a nice long list of books and documentaries and podcasts that I want to start listening to. I've already bought a couple of books. First, I've got the book All We Can Save by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Catherine Wilkinson. This is an anthology of writings by 60 women at the forefront of the climate movement who are harnessing truth, courage, and solutions to lead humanity forward. So this is totally up my alley. It's writings and art and poetry from 60 women who are in the climate movement. And it's like, this is amazing. So I already bought this book. I cannot wait to start reading it. And it would be amazing if I can have the author, Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, on the podcast this year. I'm putting it out there. So yeah, really looking forward to reading that. I also plan on picking up Farming While Black, Soulfire's Farm Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land, and that's by Leah Penniman. So this book offers technical skills to educate Black people about how to start their own farms. And it's pretty much for anyone who's interested in having a sustainable farm or garden, which is totally up my alley. The last book on my list of things to read is called Who Fears Death by Nindi Okorafor. Now, this is actually a fictional book, so it's like a sci-fi or a cli-fi, like a climate fiction book and like fantasy. So it takes place in post-apocalypse Africa. And it's basically a reminder that the people most impacted by climate change are often the most vulnerable with the least access to political power. It sounds super interesting to me, and it may even be turned into an HBO series. So I definitely want to read that before, that starts coming out. So yeah. Oh, and also too, while we're talking about books, I just want to remind you that if you can buy from a local bookstore or even from a online seller that isn't Amazon or Barnes and Noble, then, that would be good to do. So I bought my books from Better World Books, which donates books with every purchase. And they have the option to ship with carbon offsets. And they also recycle any unused books. This is not sponsored, but I've bought several books from Better World Books, so I highly recommend them. And as far as education goes, I do also want to catch up on some documentaries. I have not been, keeping up with all of the latest documentaries that have come out this year in 2021. Seaspiracy came out, and that was just like talking about the impact of farming for fish and for food. And as a person who likes to eat seafood, I just kind of avoided it. But like I said, I'm trying to make better choices as far as my eating habits go next year. And so I do want to catch up on that. I also haven't seen the True Cost documentary, which is about basically fast fashion and the impact of fashion on people and the planet. So that one came out, I think, in 2015, and I haven't seen it yet. So I definitely want to catch up on some of these documentaries. And it was also suggested to me by my new podcast partner, also named Ariel, to do like some episodes like reviewing documentaries or even books or something. So I would be interested in knowing you guys's opinions on that. Would you be interested in that? If so, send me a DM on Instagram or email me or something and, let me know what you would think about that, or just listen to the episode when it comes out. Another way that I think that we could all be more sustainable in 2022, again, is to cut back on eating out and to make more meals at home, and then also cut back on eating meat and dairy. I've done several episodes recently on food waste and preventing food waste, so I don't really want to go too much into that in this episode, but I think that it's such an important issue, and I still have room for improvement. Of course, I'm sure most of us do. So I think that, being more cognizant of what we're buying and how much we're buying, and just being more diligent and keeping up with making our meal plans and sticking to our meal plans is going to help us with reducing food waste coming into the new year. Another way that I think that we can easily be more sustainable in 2022 is to make better choices about what we're buying and the products that we use. So, looking into how we can use more reusables in our daily lives. In 2021, I did incorporate using some reusable paper towels, which has been life changing. I have gone from using a pack of 6 paper towels a month to only using 1 roll of paper towels every 2 months, just by using reusable paper towels and by using, like dish rags and just random cloths in the kitchen more. Thinking about ways in which you can reduce your waste and incorporating some new products or just, using what you already have is going to be a great way to reduce your waste. And then another thing in 2021, I've been able to get back into using, my reusable grocery bags and my produce bags more. I know in 2020, with the concern of germs and such, a lot of places didn't want you bringing your reusable bags to the grocery store. So I fell out of the habit of bringing mine with me. So this year, I have definitely made more of a goal to bring my reusables with me. And that's been great with reducing my waste. If you're looking for ways to cut back on the amount of trash that you're producing, I always suggest doing a trash audit, which is basically going through your garbage bag after, like a week or so, however long it takes for you to fill up a garbage bag, and getting some gloves. It's going to be a little bit dirty, might be a little bit smelly, depending on what you're throwing away, but it's good to just assess what types of things that you're throwing away, both in the kitchen and in the bathroom. You may notice that you're throwing away a lot of food or a lot of packaging or a lot of like paper plates or paper towels, or in the bathroom you may be throwing away a lot of cotton balls or empty plastic products or something. So it's a good opportunity to do a trash audit to see where you're producing a lot of trash. And then that'll be able to tell you how you can move forward and maybe make better choices to eliminate some of the trash that you're getting rid of. And, I like to suggest, looking at the products that you're using on a frequent basis and maybe trying to find something that has cleaner ingredients or maybe something that has better packaging. There are so many new companies out there that have great products with ingredients that are better for the planet and better for our bodies. So I would totally suggest looking into, what types of products you're using and maybe making the switch to something that's better for you. The last tip that I have to be more sustainable in 2022 is going to be looking at your wardrobe. See if you can cut back on shopping fast fashion. So by that, I mean buying new clothes like once a month, or I don't know how frequently people shop these days, but I guess people are still doing hauls. People are still buying from Fashion Nova and, other companies like that that just push out cheap clothing that you're really only supposed to wear once or twice. So yeah, I would suggest cutting back on doing that or eliminating it altogether if you can, and only buy what you need. Look at your closet and see what you have and how you can work with that for a few months without having to buy anything new. I guess that kind of brings me to the end of this episode. I hope that you guys gained some good ideas on how to be more sustainable in 2022. It really doesn't have to be complicated. It's all about, again, being aware, educating yourself on how we can do better, and just keeping the planet in mind, and also keeping the health of, yourself in mind too. And also to keep in mind, the social impacts of the things that we're doing. Special thanks to today's sponsors, Greenhouse Mercantile and Ana Luisa. Visit greenhousemercantile.com to shop or schedule a virtual appointment with Kenya. And don't miss Ana Luisa's biggest sale of the year by using my link in the description to get 60% off your second item at shop.analuisa.com/ARIEL. That is it for this episode. It's the last one of 2021. Thank you so much for continuing to listen to this podcast and this radio show, and for continuing to support Sustainable Brown Girl. And I look forward to continuing to hear from you and bringing this show to you in 2022. Until next week, let's continue to make better choices for the health of our planet and the health of our bodies. Thanks for listening.